All right, our second speaker today is Broden Holland. Broden comes from a family farm between Grenfell and Young in New South Wales. They farm 4,500 hectares comprising 70% cropping and 30% is pasture phase, with 4,500 self-replacing merino enterprise, all on a 10-year rotation. Broden studied at CSU and has a Bachelor of Ag Business Management. Farming is a passion and aims to make farming continually sustainable and do his bit for the next generation. Precision ag plays a vital role and can unlock many opportunities in both efficiency and overall return. It enables Broden to further understand the land's limitation and ensures it's managed the right way. Today, Broden will talk about his experience in setting up field and protein maps.
How you going, everybody? My name's Broden Holland. Probably a bit out of my league today, but we'll see how we go. So I guess it's a little bit different to what she just said, but I wanted to sort of put our year's PA all in 30 minutes. So it all started 2 years ago. Dad come to one of these spa events, saw a bit of stuff, thought, well, let's try a bit. And so now we're pretty much variable rate everything that we can possibly do that's easy. So I guess for us, the biggest thing is you can look at all these things and get very overwhelmed very quickly, and it all becomes very hard. But what we've done is sort of split it up into yield and focusing on that with our pH, and so with soil mapping with pH and phosphorus, and then we're looking at nitrogen with a grain analyzer with the 3000H on a case combine. So I'll just breeze over the soil mapping and stuff pretty quickly because you'll probably hear about that a lot today. So we're doing the 2 hectare soil sampling from Precision Ag. We're doing VR, pH and phosphorus maps, and we're aiming to decrease yield variability on paddock basis. So I guess for us the biggest thing is these are the 2 things that are the easiest to fix, apart from, all the other various things that we can't adjust, such as rain. So we're going to adjust these and get them more even across our paddocks to try and get our yields more even. So we're looking at our pH and our phosphorus. So with the pH we get the maps, we then get our maps processed and we make our applications. So with our lime, we're just using the Marshall multi-spread app. It's very simple and very easy to set up. We retrofitted it to our older 810 machine. It's a 2004 model, I think. And people, VR, it gets very, I guess, it's hard to understand because you've got so many different rates, as you can see there, and the old trick of I've done so many hectares over 2 tonnes, I know what my rate is. Well, VR you can't do that because your hectares are so many different rates. So we've only got scales in our loader, and after this year, after 1,200 tonnes of spreading lime, we were 2 tonnes short, so it's pretty accurate for us. We're pretty happy with that. So all it does, I think there's a machine out there. This is a little bit older VR kit, but it's just a simple kit that's got an actuator on the door, and it just adjusts the door as you're going along to match the rates that you need. And you've got the iPad in the cab, and as you drive over the different zones, it just tells the actuator what to do. Very simple and pretty cost effective. Our VR phosphorus, which we're probably a bit more excited about. When we first got our maps back, we looked over some yield data from the last few years, and we saw more of a correlation between the phosphorus and our yield maps rather than the pH, which is probably a little bit different to what I've heard so far. But it's all interesting for us. So we're using chicken manure instead of doing it at sowing time, just because it gets a bit harder, and sowing times for sowing, we don't want to be worrying about rates getting mucked up for your fertiliser. So we're using chicken manure and targeting a Colwell P of 50. Again, we're using a Marshall multi-spread hydraulic rate control kit. It's been retrofitted to our wallaby spreader, and we're able to spread 1 tonne to 7 tonne at 25 kilometres. And that it depends on the manure. Some manure is a bit more, the bulk density is a bit lower, so you might only be doing 15 kilometres to get those same rates because you've got to get more out. But so far we've just spread the 400 tonnes so far this year, and we've got another 2,600 to go. So so far it's worked really, really good. It adjusts very quickly and it's just easy. You just push it actually talks to the SCVs in our John Deere tractor, so it auto SCV, so it automatically adjusts the belt speed through the hydraulics of the tractor, so there's no PWM valves or anything to adjust anything. So it works really well. So I guess today I'm more going to talk about our 3000H grain analyzer and our variable rate urea maps. So a couple of questions I put up there was, have you heard of it? Why would you want it? And is it worth it? So I guess think about those things while I'm talking about this. And look, it's not for everyone, but for us it's been a big positive in our harvest, and yeah, it's probably changed the way we've done a lot of things. So one of the bigger things that people probably don't realise is that the grain analyzer does moisture as well, for both wheat, barley and canola. So it's a fully automated combine moisture test. It does it every 8 to 12 seconds depending on what you set it on. You can keep track of your on-farm grain storage. So if you put it into a silo once you've harvested a truckload, you can record that in the screen on the combine, and it'll tell you later on what's what. You can ability to blend grain to increase harvest time. And harvest earlier with and after rain with an instant moisture test. So it's just awesome to be able to not have to get out of the cab to bloody do it, or get your chase bin driver to go and do a quick moisture sample while he's waiting or something. So in 2017, approximately 90 tonnes of canola was harvested at higher moisture after rain. As we blended this with some drier grain we had in another mother bin. I guess for everyone to look at this, 90 tonnes, yep, doesn't seem like much, and it didn't for us at the time, but it was 3 hours, we had 3 headers going, so it was 3 hours extra harvest at that time. But in terms of the whole harvest, that could have actually cost us probably, a lot more time, because 3 hours that we didn't spend there, we would have got stuck on a block that was 30 k's away after that 100 mils of rain, and would have really thrown a spanner in the works for harvest. So this is just some rough estimations. It's very hard to put a gauge on it because you do different things, but in wheat and canola this year, I think, and I'm pretty confident, we gained approximately 8 hours harvest time. That includes not having to run a sample to the silos. We have got a Dickie John handheld moisture tester. We don't use that anymore. We just use it on combine one. But it just, there's the time in taking your sample to the silos. There's your time in thinking, oh, well, it's too tough, it won't be right to go, but some of the time, just because the straw's tough doesn't mean you can't harvest. Your grain's usually not too bad. So yeah, that's what we gained, and that also includes a bit of blending. So I guess this is the core of it. The 3000H does protein maps in wheat, and it also does oil in canola, so you can look at your oil over a paddock. So it's, again, a fully automated combine protein test every 8 to 12 seconds. It's real-time mapping, so as you're driving along in the header, every 8 seconds you get a dot on your map and you know what your protein is. It gives us the ability to blend low and high proteins to increase returns. So I'll show you in a second that one of the fields that we've done, and yeah, we've got quite a lot blended up. And the ability to otherwise locate and manage lower areas if you're unable to blend. So for us, we have 2 main markets for our wheat. there's grain corp, which we take most of it. We don't take most of it, which we take all our higher grades. And then we've got the mill in Young, quail milling. They like APW or ASW and a bit of H2. So really they're aiming at sort of that bang on 11.5 protein. So by having the 3000H in the header, if we know we've got some 11.4 protein stuff in the same paddock, I'll just bring that up. So if we've got some not that this one is 11.4, but if we had this half was 11.4, and if this half was, I don't know, maybe 14 or something, and we couldn't blend it, or even if this was 9 and this was, I don't know, maybe 11, we could send the 9 to the grain corp, because no one would really want that, the mill doesn't want that, but we could send this half to the mill in Young, and we get a better return out of that, and they get the wheat they want. So it gives you a bin by bin average. So each time you fold out the auger, it'll and then fold it back in, it'll it'll reset the average for that bin. So you can then allocate it to a whatever grain receival or a mother bin that you've got typed into the screen. We have 2 mother bins now. We just use mother bins to blend our grain. So on this particular field, this was its first year out of pasture, and I wanted to show you this because this year it probably was one of our biggest returners for the 3000H. So we had one mother bin for this field, and we harvested. We pretty much put the mother bin in the middle just because it makes the harvest logistics easy. We only had 1 header on this field, but so we had one mother bin, and I guess the thing is with all these numbers with the 3000H is it all depends on how you're harvesting your paddocks, and it's not always going to be the same every field. But in 2017. In 2017, so this is a 274 hectare paddock. So as you can see down here, 12 to 12.9%, which is H2. There was 79 hectares of that, and there was 16 hectares of 11.9 and below. So that's all the yellow and red, and all the rest of the green was 13 and above. So that puts us into APH2 because it was Lancer wheat. So that's it was about $32 or $3 at the time a tonne. So once we harvested all this, the grain corp average off the grain corp site that we delivered was 13.2. The 3000H's average was 13.5. I knew that. As we got the machine, we did some calibrations, and then I knew after the first load that it was 0.2 out, but I didn't want to change it because that would change your variability across your paddock, which I want to keep constant for all our urea maps. So in all that, I was just going, so if I harvested to keep the harvest logistics and to also get it blended, I would harvest this end a little bit, and I'd watch the bin averages, and if it was above 13 pretty much, or 13.1, I'd tell the chaser bin to put it in the front of the mother bin. If it was below 13, I'd tell them to put it in the back, and I just kept doing that. And then once I started harvesting a little bit, I could see the trends that this side was higher than this side. And all but 2 B doubles went APH2 from that field. So there could have been, and I say could have because it depends on how you would have harvested it without the 3000H. To be honest, we probably just would have went bang, harvested that half, and then harvested this half. And it's hard to know exactly what you would have got, but what I've worked out is without blending, we would have probably got a probable loss of $37 a hectare. So that's a Sakura spray, or it's $15,000 nearly if you add it up over the paddock, and if you don't want that, I'll take it. So I guess for us, it's been a huge pickup in our harvesting. The first year we had it, we did a similar thing. We probably gained about $20 per hectare on that field. I'll show you in the next slide what happened there. But yeah, it's really enabled us to be able to blend our grain, know where our proteins are. We can pull into a block, go and do a couple of strips if we know where old paddock variation is. Yep, righto, we've got 11% here, we've got 13% here. Let's try and blend that, or if it's too hard to blend, let's send that there or send that here. So it's really helped us do that. So the next thing is during the year, so that was harvest. So now we're looking at our protein maps, and then we're going to do VR nitrogen by urea, which last year we spread our whole farm VR urea, and we do that just off the protein, and we also did it off the oil maps for canola, and we'll try and find some more data on that, whether it actually relates oil and off protein from canola, and whether it relates to the wheat as well. So high protein areas get less than low areas. So when we first started this, Dad was the bigger driver of this. He looked at it and said, well, hang on, yield is, because a lot of people look at yield and nitrogen removal. And for us, yield has so many other factors that affect it. So there's rain, there's pH, phosphorus, trace nutrients, all those things really affect yield. Protein it does get affected, but not as much as all those other things. And nitrogen is the biggest driver of yield, of protein, and of course can lift yield. So our aim with this isn't for nitrogen removal, but like our pH and phosphorus, is to try and even all the paddocks up. So what we do is the high protein areas get less than the lower areas. So I just, in the AFS software, so I get my 2016 protein map, which you can see as all of the different grades down here. It's a bit hard to see probably, but all you want to look at is the colours. So I get the map, and I just made an equation that was, if less protein than 10.5, put 120 kilos of urea on it. If greater than 10.5, put 100. If greater than 11.5, put 80. And if greater than 13, put 60. So that was, I thought, a simple way to do it. And also, it's an easy way to use the data. It's not, let's look at the yield and the protein, let's overlay them, let's try and do that. It's just use it simply. In 5 years' time, we'll go back and have a look. Let's see how we did. Let's see if we've evened it up. It's really no skin off our nose to do this. It's pretty easy. It's the simplest way, as I said. It eliminates some of the other variables. So it gets rid of your, by not using your yield in there as well, you're not as much focusing on your pH and your phosphorus. And then the end goal is to use the protein each year and eventually reduce nitrogen variability for protein and yield. So this was our 2016 protein. We then went and spread it off this map. And then this was our 2017 protein. So the anomalies in this paddock, that's the one thing you've got to do, as Brett said before, you've got to look at your anomalies in your paddocks. This here used to be 5 different paddocks, this field. So it's 190 hectares, and it used to be, lots of 40. So there was an old paddock there, there's an old paddock there, and then an old one there. So as you can see, our aim is to get this area to match the rest. In 2017, this red here was a different variety, so that's why that's a different protein. So as you can see, it's still hard to get a definitive answer, but the signs are promising. It's evened it up quite a lot and gotten rid of a lot of this variability in here and also here. So it's promising. In 2018, All we're going to change with our VR maps, we're pretty happy with what we've done, but we're going to just make our ranges larger. So instead of our 120 up here, we're going to make it 180, and our 60 will stay the same, and we'll just go in increments of 40 instead of increments of 20. And I punched it into the thing, and it was only an extra 2 tonne of urea over that, like using that rate, compared to this. So it's not using much more, it's just putting it where it needs to go. So a bit more about the VR protein. So in the yield, so this is the 2016 yield. So we weren't initially looking to even up yield with our nitrogen, but we've found some correlations between it. So 2016 yield and 2017 yield, I tried to keep the colours the same so it's not misleading. This was just a different year, so lower yielding. But take note of all the changes in here and take note of all the changes in here. I went back to it 3 or 4 times and made sure that I had the right smoothing and grids or contour size, because I thought that's not right. Like it's evened it up by 40% less variability. What other things have affected that, we don't know. Could be a mixture of things, but we haven't as yet spread that paddock with VR, phosphorus or pH. That'll happen, or the pH will get done next year and the phosphorus will be done this year. So, you know, in the next couple of years we'll go back and look at that paddock and wonder what was different. It was wheat on wheat, that's probably why I chose that, just because it was easy to judge. So yeah, I guess it's a thing of, we'll come back and revisit it in 3 years' time and see if that 40% keeps going up. If our standard deviation in here was, I think, 1.5, so that's your standard deviation from your average yield. And in this one it was 1. So, you know, we're doing something, I think. And yeah. So again, we're just using similar amounts. We're not really changing how much we put on. We're just putting it where it needs to go. So, and all we're doing for our VR urea is we're just using Amazon Profis 3, which is old PDO one. We've got an Amatron 3 in there, and it's just VR through a serial rate control on a Trimble FMX. And it works well, and it's pretty cheap to set up. So I guess nitrogen replacement, this is what, when we first got into doing this stuff with the protein maps, is what everyone sort of told us we should be doing. And yeah, that's when we sort of stepped back and thought, well, hang on, why don't we separate our protein and our yields, focus on them separately a little bit, and see if we can even them up before we go overlaying them. But what we aim to do is, once we do get all our pH, phosphorus and nitrogen evened up, we'll then probably go to our nitrogen replacement, which is yield and protein together, make a map. So it's yield times protein times 1.75, and then that'll give you a rate. So yeah. So it creates a map based on removal. So we're putting these two together. These are the yields. This is the yield, that's the protein. Overlay those, times it by 1.75, it gives you your removal. So yeah, for us, it will be, in the next couple of years, we'll probably start to do that if we start to see some more evening up of paddocks. But yeah, for us, it's probably in the future. But it's what everyone's sort of been telling us to do, and yeah, I guess we just... Well, one of the other thing is you've got to study this quite hard, because there's lots of variability here. You've got to look at this. Well, this was a wetter area, so really you're not going to take nitrogen off that just because it was a lower yielding area. Obviously did lower protein as well. So there's those anomalies. So I guess if you just focus on the protein for your urea, you're going to even it up, and then you're still putting the right amount on. So we know that that's low, so we've got to put high amounts on there, which will hopefully bring up the yield. So yeah, so that's it. Any questions?